Hey! Hello, and welcome to Universidad Francisco Marroquín's MOOC, the School of Salamanca. The School of Salamanca is a very broad term used to describe a group of late scholastic Catholic thinkers from 16th century and 17th century Spain, Latin America, and Portugal. Usually theologians, these men were a special subset of the intellectuals of their day. We tend to think of the Salamancans as rivals of the relatively more secular humanists, although this opposition is often overstated and misunderstood. And many scholars even view the relation as one of mutual influence. Like the humanists, the late scholastics reserved for themselves the right to comment on almost any philosophical, scientific, moral, or economic issue. Their disputes with other intellectuals were often public spectacles. For example, Bartolomé de las Casas and Juan Ginés de Sepúlveda debated the human rights of indigenous peoples at Valladolid in 1550 and 1551. Another example, Luis Saravia de la Calle and Cristóbal de Villalón debated usury, that is, the charging of interest on loans, in major treatises published at Medina del Campo in 1544 and Valladolid in 1550 and 1551. Not all of the members of the School of Salamanca attended or taught at the actual University of Salamanca, one of Europe's oldest universities, founded in 1134 and chartered by Alfonso IX of León in 1218. Nevertheless, the founder, Francisco de Vitoria, as well as many of the school's subsequent figures, did indeed teach there. Thus, a great deal of the intellectual transformation of early modern Spain is associated with this theological and academic center on the banks of the Tormes River. When we say that the School of Salamanca were late scholastics, we are emphasizing certain characteristics. They wrote mostly, though not exclusively, in Latin. They were dialectical and meticulous in their methods. And they turned to Aristotle and Aquinas as authorities. The humanists tended to prefer Plato and Augustine. Other late medieval sources for late scholastic thought included the sermons of Saint Bernardino of Siena and Saint Antonino of Florence. Nevertheless, like the humanists, the late scholastics began empirically as well as theoretically to question their own traditional authorities. In many respects, the School of Salamanca represents a critical reappraisal of Aquinas' and Aristotle's teachings. The traditional relation between God and man needed rethinking around 1500 due to the rise of humanism, the discovery of the New World, the onset of the Protestant Reformation, as well as scientific advances in fields ranging from astronomy to anatomy. The intellectual shift represented by late scholasticism began as a nominalist and empiricist renewal at the University of Paris, led by Scottish Dominican John Major. The goal was to get beyond stale, rules-based reasoning, which was often weighed down by excessive appeals to ancient and medieval authorities, and to overcome silly metaphysical polemics about things like the spatial nature of angels. Instead, Mayer grounded philosophy in real life by using reason in order to attend to issues that mattered to everyday people. Major's most important Spanish student, Francisco de Vitoria, was given the prime chair of theology, that's the good one, at the University of Salamanca in 1524. In addition to Vitoria, Las Casas, Villalón, Saravia, and Valencia, other Spaniards affiliated or engaged with the School of Salamanca included Martín de Azpilcueta, Domingo de Soto, Diego de Covarrubias, Tomás de Mercado, Fray Luis de León, Luis de Molina, Juan de Mariana, San Juan de la Cruz, Francisco Suárez, and Felipe de la Cruz Vasconcillos. Although the reach of their influence is hotly debated, it is our position in this course that many of the political and economic theories produced by these men represent important contributions to modern Western civilization. Some final points about the importance of Vitoria. Vitoria's explanation of evil as the inevitable result of God's gift of free will to humans has realistic and anti-utopian implications, laying the groundwork for reason and choice to prevail over idealism and dogma. Second, in returning to Aristotle and Aquinas, the School of Salamanca placed particular emphasis on natural rights. Third, Vitoria considered the free market a healthy contribution to human well-being and rejected the notion that merchants were greedy sinners. Just prices, usury, and commercial contracts would become fundamental topics for nearly all of Vitoria's successors. And finally, Vitoria checked the power of the emperor and the pope, questioning their supposed rights to make war on pagan peoples and claim their territories. To sum up, Vitoria represented a radical shift toward a more modern, rational outlook. Historical factors in mid-16th century Spain. At the end of the 15th century, the Catholic kings mandated the forced conversions or expulsions of Jews and Muslims in Spain. Before that time, and especially during the Reconquest, merchant activities were largely left to Jews and Moors because business was thought to be inherently sinful. Rather suddenly, with the expulsions and conversions of Jews and Moors, a large number of Christians were now involved in commerce and finance. Indeed, in 1517, Spanish merchants in Antwerp asked Vitoria about the moral legitimacy of their profession. The students of Aquinas and Aristotle at Salamanca now had to think deeply about things like commerce and finance. The 16th century was the first period of globalization. New sea routes opened to the New World and the Orient. International networks of trade and finance were established, and merchants began to service rapidly growing domestic and foreign markets. As early industrialization began, larger banking and finance needs arose. There was an explosion of complex financial instruments. States turned increasingly to monetary manipulation as a means of raising funds, and an overabundance of currencies, counterfeiters, tariffs, taxes, and marketplace interference were all problems. In Spain, public deposit banks had already been established at Barcelona in 1401 and Valencia in 1407. By the middle of the 16th century, due to the massive importation of New World silver, the fairs at Medina del Campo became the focus of an entirely new financial network in Western Europe. Then came the national bankruptcies of 1557, 1575, 1597, 1627, 1647, 1656, and 1662. All of this commanded the attention of the School of Salamanca. The discovery of the New World in 1492 resulted in numerous changes throughout Spain, not the least of which were issues related to human rights and just war theory. Now, was Columbus thinking about all this? I doubt it. He was just a great admiral who wanted to make oodles of money.
But he didn't.
Were militant racism and colonialism justifiable? Not everyone thought so. To what degree were Spaniards practicing injustices against Amerindian natives and Black African slaves? This was the essence of the famous debate between Las Casas and Sepúlveda at Valladolid in 1550 and 1551. De Soto was a judge, by the way, but there appears to have been no clear verdict. Then there was the matter of the huge influx of gold and silver, which added momentum to a new economic reality, which now called for serious theoretical thinking about money, markets, interest rates, inflation, and exchange rates among currencies. The concentration of power at the Habsburg court in Madrid brought serious change to Spain. Under Charles V, Philip II, Philip III, and Philip IV, the universal Catholic monarchy of the Spanish Empire imposed the aggressive bureaucracy of what many scholars agree was the first modern nation-state. As the Habsburgs went about asserting their geopolitical control of Iberia, they suppressed local legal and political traditions, first in Castile and then other kingdoms. This led to a series of repressive wars: the Comuneros Rebellion, the Alpujarras War, the annexation of Portugal, the Revolt of Aragon, and the Catalan Revolt. Then there was foreign policy. Successes against the Ottoman Empire and against Aztecs, Mayans, Incans, and Mapuches in the New World contrasted with the relatively disastrous adventures against England, France, and the Low Countries. As outsiders from Austria, who dynastically maneuvered themselves into power in Spain, the Habsburgs were almost immediately subjected to intense political scrutiny. Their authority and their wars, expulsions, and conquests all caused anxiety, resentment, and nostalgia for previous dynasties. Endless public debate and satire highlighted specific issues like monetary manipulation, tyranny, imperialism, colonialism, taxation, diplomacy, wars, corruption, and courtly extravagance. Of course, the School of Salamanca actively commented on all of these. Oh, wait. Come on. Stop. We're almost done. Hello? Oh, come on. Among the many important technological and ideological changes in Renaissance Europe, two that had great impact on 16th century Spain were the invention of the printing press and the rise of Protestantism. Both phenomena increased intellectual competition. Like an early modern internet, the printing press allowed for the uncontrollable dissemination of both new and old ideas. The Protestant Reformation caused reactionary behavior in the Counter-Reformation, such as the Spanish Inquisition's infamous autos de fe. But it also pushed some religious orders, especially the Dominicans and the Jesuits, to undertake their own internal reforms. Religion will be a transversal theme throughout this course. In the first half of the 16th century, Spain was heavily influenced by the reform-minded humanist Erasmus of Rotterdam. Think of Erasmus as a radical, but not willing to take the plunge like Luther or Calvin. It's fundamental to realize that the thinkers of the School of Salamanca did not share a monolithic point of view, that debate and methodical dialogue were very important, even with their humanist rivals. Again, in this course, we'll consider the debate over human rights between Las Casas and Sepúlveda in 1550 and 1551, and the debate over usury between Villalón and Saravia in 1541 and 1544. A simple example of different perspectives within the School of Salamanca, and an example that has modern relevance, can be found in the opinions regarding free trade held by Vitoria and Molina. Vitoria would be analogous to the libertarian view that commerce trumps all other concerns, whereas Molina would be a conservative arguing that a nation's interests require restrictions on commerce with dangerous international rivals. Will trade with another country make that country freer and less dangerous? Or are we enriching an enemy who wants to repress other nations? Expand your knowledge by downloading readings, podcasts, and creative comics from our online course. Sign up at salamanca.ufm.edu. It's cool and it's free.